It's all about the wall. Everything you always wanted to know about the right to keep and bear nunchucks, crazy clips from the left, and more. All this on this episode of Truth is Making a Comeback.
Truth is making a comeback. America's top stories with Lisa K. Donner.
The Democrats are salivating at the prospect of President Trump's demise and have visions of the Donald in an orange jumpsuit dancing in their heads this Christmas season. The I word, impeachment, seems to be on the tips of their tongues, along with another phrase that they've been bantering around a lot: unindicted co-conspirator. This is not an exaggeration. We have some clips for you that we believe you will want to hear. We're going to start with a very popular segment called Say What? Joining me is my better half, Tim Donner. Thanks for coming on the show, Tim.
My pleasure, Lise. Good to be with you.
All right, so the thing about Say What is it's very popular. You've had it on your radio program, Liberty Nation Radio, which is syndicated on the Radio America Network. You also have it on your website, and everyone seems to like it. In a nutshell, what is Say What?
Well, Say What is a compilation of the most wacky, astonishing, and damnable things uttered by politicians and the chattering class. It's the most popular segment of the show, and no wonder, because it's the most notable head-turning statements of people in the swamp or in it and around it.
Yeah, I'm sure it's not hard to find the wacky and damnable things, but today we're going to start with a member of the chattering class, also known as Little Chuck Todd. Set this up for us quickly, please.
Well, the diminutive Mr. Todd, a prominent member of the establishment media, was among those who were salivating at the thought that Michael Cohen's prison term and his plea and his sudden about face on what Donald Trump had done would lead to perhaps impeachment proceedings based on a campaign finance violation for paying off paid women.
Okay, let's go to the videotape.
You have the Justice Department, if you will, in the Southern District of New York, pretty explicitly implicating the president in a crime. Do you believe there's already enough to start an impeachment inquiry? In fact, is Congress almost obligated to open an inquiry at this point? The one means to dealing when a president commits crimes is through the impeachment process. If you don't go through it, isn't this Congress's way of saying, well, yes, he committed some crimes, but politically it's uncomfortable, so, you know, if you're popular enough or if you have a big enough base, you can get away with committing crimes?
So there you have Chuck Todd, a prominent member of the media establishment, goading Democrats to impeach or begin impeachment proceedings on Trump because of campaign finance violations. He's mentioned crime, the word crime 4 times, and the word impeachment 3 times in that soundbite.
Well, I find it very interesting that a member of the media who considers himself unbiased is chomping at the bit for the President of the United States to be impeached and considers him a criminal. Be that as it may, number 2, let's move on to the Honorable Mr. Adam Schiff, Democrat of California. Set this up for us, Tim.
Well, this is the other side of the swamp equation. First, you had the media. Now you have Adam Schiff, well known as a tormentor of Donald Trump, among many others in the D.C. swamp. And he will now become, in 2 weeks, when the Democrats take control of Congress, he will become the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee. And he is absolutely chomping at the bit, salivating to go after Donald Trump. And he made a spectacular prediction.
My takeaway is there's a very real prospect that on the day Donald Trump leaves office, the Justice Department may indict him, that he may be the first president in quite some time to face the real prospect of jail time.
So there you have, I guess, wishful thinking.
The same theme, right? It's the same theme. It's like, let's get this guy. Let's put him in the POCO. Let's make sure he's wearing an orange jumpsuit, right?
Well, look, they started with Russian collusion, and that's gone nowhere. Then they went to obstruction of justice. That didn't work either. So now they're working on, hush money paid to paid women as a campaign finance violation. So pretty much with the Democrats, when it comes to taking down or kneecapping Donald Trump, it's whatever it takes, whatever means avail themselves.
We have one final one for you today. This next one here is Representative Tim Lieu. Is that how you pronounce it? Anyway.
A far left Democrat from Hawaii.
Right. And this is really breathtaking. Let's roll it and then we'll talk about it.
I would love to be able to regulate the content of speech. The First Amendment prevents me from doing so.
So there you see a leftist Democrat committing what in Washington is called a gaffe, which means accidentally telling the truth. I think many or most of us have seen what the Democrats are willing to do to try to limit free speech, to expand the definition of hate speech, to place limits on speech, but they don't usually admit it. But this guy did, and I imagine he got taken to the woodshed by his fellow far left members of the political class for admitting something you're not supposed to admit, because they're supposed to be in favor of the First Amendment and free speech the way the rest of us are. But there you hear a far left congressman sort of previewing what will happen if the Democrats gain full control beyond just the House. If they win the Senate, which looks favorable for them in 2020, and they win the White House, God forbid that this kind of thinking would be prevalent in Washington.
Well, it's a sad state of affairs when the members of our Congress believe the First Amendment is nothing more than a roadblock. Thanks so much for joining us on Truth is Making a Comeback. Tim Donner of LibertyNation.com, our chief Washington columnist. Thanks so much, Tim.
Thank you, Lisa.
You now have the right to bear, wait for it, nunchucks. Yes, you heard that right. U.S. District Court Judge Pamela Chen, an Obama appointee, struck down a statewide ban on nunchucks as unconstitutional. And she cited, of all things, the Second Amendment, saying nunchucks are protected under the right to bear arms. Go figure. Joining me now is Legal Affairs Editor, and I might add a certified NRA instructor, Scott D. Cosenza. Welcome to Truth, Scott.
Thank you, Lisa.
Okay, so in a nutshell, what is a nunchuck?
Well, viewers of Bruce Lee's Enter the Dragon and fans of Michelangelo, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, already know the answers to this question, Lisa. It's a stick about yay long, joined to another stick, the same length, by a string or a rope. And that's all it is. And a person who knows how to, or hopefully knows how to, swings it about and can use it as a weapon for defensive or offensive purposes. It's basically a kung fu tool.
Okay, so why were nunchucks banned in New York in the first place? And by the way, were they banned anywhere else?
They've been banned in lots of places where where knives and other things that can be used as weapons are banned. Sort of like a Northeast Democrat city kind of a thing, I think. If you go to Colorado or Arizona, I don't think you're going to find these sorts of things. Certainly California, I imagine, does have them. And they were banned, I think, just because.
But you told me that you grew up in Philadelphia, that you owned a nunchuck or two.
I did own more than one set of nunchucks as a kid. Yeah, they're fascinating. They're fascinating. You see Bruce Lee on the TV doing them, and you want to be Bruce Lee, right? And so that's what motivated my purchase, and that of many other teenage boys, I imagine.
Very interesting. So you know what essentially happened, and how did this ruling come about? This has been going on for a long time. I mean, they've been banned for a long while now, right?
74, I think, is when the law went into effect. But what we have now is the Heller decision and the wake of the Heller decision in order to use to challenge these types of rules, and that's what happened here in this case. the attorney wanted to teach his own children his own brand of martial arts, found that the nunchucks were banned. And in fact, because he actually got in trouble and was arrested for nunchuck possession. And so he's fought this case.
Oh my God, possession of a nunchuck.
It's a real thing.
Did they put him in jail for something or for this?
He
or
was
something?
arrested, and Jim Maloney is the man's name. He's an attorney, and he's a very interesting type guy. I've been reading about him in the wake of this decision. And he fought this case himself. And what we have here, Lisa, is that the federal court in Judge Chen has ruled that if there's a thing that is commonly possessed and it's not possessed for nefarious purposes commonly, so for instance, a sharpened screwdriver, you may say, well, that's commonly possessed for bad purposes. Whereas nunchucks are commonly used for training and enjoyment, not for crime commission. And so because of that, because they are both arms and commonly possessed for peaceful purposes, that two-part test, the judge says this is protected Second Amendment activity.
So nunchucks aren't hanging around in the hood.
No comment.
All right. So continuing on very quickly, what else did Chen say in the 32-page ruling in New York?
Well, basically, it was the build-up to all that, which is that this is an object that is used and possessed mostly for non-criminal peaceful purposes, which is to say people train with it, they enjoy it, they put it on their mantle or whatever, have it in a drawer. And so that's legal. And also that it is an arm. By the meaning of to bear arms. It's not always firearms that the Second Amendment covers, according to Heller and its legacy. So knives also may be included in this, and other weapons or devices.
So what does this mean for the Second Amendment jurisprudence going forward?
Well, we had a case just recently from New Jersey that said 11-round magazines and over can be banned under the current Second Amendment jurisprudence. This case, even though it's about nunchucks and not ammunition magazines, seems to be at odds with that because of the reasoning. Thus, if it's upheld at the circuit level, this was a district court opinion, if it's upheld at the circuit level, as that New Jersey case was, a different circuit, we'll have what we call a split in the circuits. That is the most likely path for a case to reach the Supreme Court. So with that in mind, Lisa, I would say that we may have a Supreme Court case on the nunchuck ruling some point in the future.
Thank you. That's Legal Affairs Editor Scott D. Cosenza for LibertyNation.com. Thanks for joining us this week, Scott.
Thank you, Lisa.
For a closer look at what a nunchuck is and how it is used, we have prepared a little demonstration for our LibertyNation.com viewers. Joining me now is our managing editor, Mark Angelides. Mark, you own a nunchuck. Can you show our readers and viewers what exactly it is?
Sure. So this is a training one. So it has the foam handle. So if you do get hit in the head with them, it's not going to hurt you too much. But essentially, it's two sticks joined by a chain in the middle. The chain is pretty much always metal. The sticks can be either wooden or metal. These ones, as I say, are foam with a metal inner.
These are commonly used for martial arts training, isn't that correct?
Yes.
Stand up and give us an example of what kinds of things they do or teach you with these nunchucks.
Sure. Bear in mind I'm indoors at the moment, so in a very small area. So this is your standard poses. You've got your different movements that you can do. Bring them back, over. They can go around. You do swap outs, tuck in. Then you've got all the different movements for them.
All right. What do you do? This is a weapon that can be used against somebody, an attacker, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So the idea of these is they can be sent out and returned very, very quickly. So they can strike down, they can strike up. You can swap hands. They can be used as flails. They can be used as striking weapons. And under British common law, there's actually a case a few years ago where the Strathclyde police department in Scotland managed to have them classified as a strangulation weapon because of the centerpiece. Because once they go around the neck, pressure can be applied and they can be quite dangerous.
Oh boy. Well, anything else you have to tell us about nunchucks? And now we find out that in America they're protected under the Second Amendment.
Well, oddly enough, the British law on nunchucks is that I'm not allowed to walk around with these anywhere within the United Kingdom, just in a pocket or in my hand. They would be classed as an offensive weapon, and I could face up to 6 months in prison for that. However, if I have a valid reason, for example, on my way to training or purchasing them and then going home, as long as I can demonstrate that I have a valid reason that does not have a criminal intent, I'm allowed to have them with me. But if I can't demonstrate that, then I'm in trouble.
Well, we seem to be losing audio, so thanks so much for joining us from the United Kingdom. Mark Angelides, managing editor of LibertyNation.com. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Lisa.
And now for my parting shot. Bet you can't guess what immigrants are putting under your Christmas tree this year. If you're stumped, look no further than the gift of infectious disease. Tuberculosis, hepatitis, HIV, and dengue, hemorrhagic fever are just a few of the little presents waiting for you, ho, ho, ho. And the legacy media isn't just ignoring this story, they're twisting it into a pretzel. Recently, the media has been running story after story telling the American public that immigrants are not a health hazard. Oh, except for tuberculosis, dengue, and chikungunya, among other things. This powder keg of a public health crisis is waiting to explode, and the advocacy media is doing everything in its power to keep the American public uninformed about the health risks of permitting thousands of people to cross the border into the U.S. A new report by Dr. Paul Spiegel, who seems rather adept at talking out of both sides of his mouth, claims that immigrants do not represent a health hazard. In an article commissioned by the Lancet Medical Journal, Spiegel reports that people from other countries are not as prone to die of cancer and heart disease as Americans. But he does reveal that immigrants are more likely to carry TB, hepatitis, and HIV. Time to get out the dictionary. Dengue, hemorrhagic fever, and chikungunya are two infectious diseases brought in by the migrant population. Haven't heard of those? Dengue is a virus often seen in tropical areas of the world and is transmitted by mosquitoes. And guess what? It is rising in the United States. Dengue hemorrhagic fever is characterized by a fever that lasts from 2 to 7 days. Symptoms include persistent vomiting, severe abdominal pain, and difficulty breathing, and may develop into something that can be fatal. Chikungunya is another virus transmitted to humans by way of the mosquito. Like dengue and Zika, chikungunya can cause muscle pain and joint swelling. Newborns and older adults with diabetes and other health problems are at high risk for a more severe version of chikungunya. Last month, the executive director of the Association of American Physicians and Surgeons said in an interview with Judicial Watch that it was, quote, insane to bring in migrants from any country without proper health screening, unquote. Could we perhaps be looking down the barrel of a healthcare 357? The leftist media tells us that not permitting illegal aliens into the country reveals that America lacks compassion. Really? Maybe it's just simple self-preservation and something severely lacking these days called common sense. Of course, we know that immigrants do bring one other item into the U.S., and that is an ever-growing and stable voting bloc for the Democrats. Could that perchance be why Schumer, Pelosi, and company are so insistent that enhanced border security not be passed by the 116th Congress? Nah, that would be too cynical, even to imagine such a thing. And that's my parting shot. I'm Lisa K. Donner, editor-in-chief of LibertyNation.com, wishing you all a very Merry Christmas.
Truth is making a comeback. Visit us at LibertyNation.com.